Hi everyone, I'm Mario and welcome to Code on Fire. Today we'll see together how to create a fully functional and optimized minimap in a real engine. We will follow the cooling workflow using the engine's best practice to achieve a professional result starting from scratch until we have our map on screen. Let's begin. The first fundamental step is to create our canvas, which is the place where the game engine will draw the map in real time. In our content drawer, let's right-click, go to Texture and select Render Target 2D. Let's call it RT Minimap. Let's open this new asset. Here's a very important best practice. Let's go to the Details panel, look for Texture Group and change it to UI. This tells the engine that this texture will be used for the interface, optimizing its rendering. Let's save and close. Now we need a material that reads this texture and prepares it for the HUD. Right-click, let's create a material and name it Minimap. Let's go into the material, attention here, select the main node and in the left panel change the material domain from surface to user interface. Otherwise, we won't be able to use it in our widget. Since we created the material from the texture, we will already find it inside the material. Let's connect the RGB pin to the final color input. If you want a square map, you're already done, but if you want a circular map, let's see how to do it. First of all, a fundamental technical detail. Let's select the main node of the material. In the Details panel, we have already set the material domain to User Interface, but we also need to change the blend mode from opaque to translucent, or for the version 5.7 to translucent gray transmittance. If we skip this step, Radial won't allow us to crop the texture by making the edges transparent. Now let's separate the color from the transparency. This is the secret to not fading the map. Let's take the white RGB pin of our texture and connect it straight to the final color. This way we are telling the engine the colors of the map are perfectly fine as they are. Now let's create the scissors that will cut the edges. Right-click, let's search for the Radial Gradient Exponential node. This generates a white circle that fades into black. However, we need a more defined edge, not a blurry cloud. So right-click again, let's add a cheap contrast node. This node will do exactly what it says. It will increase the contrast by crashing the gradient. Let's connect the output of our gradient to the input of a cheap contrast. Then, let's take the output of the cheap contrast and send it straight into the opacity pin of our main material. Now let's create some parameters to be able to adjust the circle. Cursor on the radius pin, right-click, promote to parameter. Same thing for the contrast pin. Let's insert some values that might work well. The more we increase the value in the radius, the more the visible part will increase. The more we increase the contrast value, the more we increase the contrast on the edges of the map. We will come back later to set these values correctly. The graphics are ready. Now we need the camera. Let's open our character's blueprint. In this case, a third-person blueprint. We need to add a camera that follows them looking from above. Let's add a spring arm component as a child of the capsule, and let's rotate it by -90 degrees on the y-axis to make it point straight towards the floor. At the end of this arm, let's add a Scene Capture component 2D. Let's rotate it properly. Let's increase the length of a spring arm. In the camera settings section, let's uncheck Inherit Pitch on X, Y and Z. Now let's configure the Scene Capture and in the Details panel let's assign our RT Minimap as the texture target. Let's change the projection type to orthographic This removes the perspective and gives us the flat view perfect for maps. Let's set the ortho width to a value like 2000. This is basically our zoom. Finally, to avoid blowing up the game's performance, let's go to Scene Capture Source and choose Final Color LDR. Rendering the map will cost very little this way. Now we need to lay everything out. Let's create a new widget blueprint for the user interface and call it WBP Minimap. In the designer, let's add a canvas. Let's look for an image and drag it onto our canvas. Let's go to the brush section and on image, let's assign our Minimap material. Let's set the dimensions. Last very quick step, telling the game to show this interface. Let's go back into the characters blueprint, go to the event graph and look for the begin play event. From here, let's pull a wire and use create widget selecting our WBP minimap. From the return value, let's pull another wire and add the add to viewport node. Let's go back into the material. Now that we have a preview, we can properly set the radius and contrast values. For example, 0.8 for the radius and 4 for the contrast. All that's left is to test. Let's press play and perfect. We have a real-time minimap, clean, optimized, and perfectly anchored to our screen. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next Unreal Engine tutorials. That's all. See you next time.